Our first guest on today's show is one of the finest automotive repair shops in our community, let alone in a nation. And it is the core fundamental values of this type of business that is one of the reasons we exist, is to introduce you to businesses like this. It's always exciting for me to have you on our show. It's Lewis Weston with A Master Mechanic. Welcome back.
Thanks for having us again, Mitch.
You know, I love that you're taking on educating our community on different topics. And the one that you wanted to take on today is a do-it-yourselfer, some of the cautions and some of the things that happen when people go out and they either use the internet to diagnose their problem or they go to these parts stores and get free code scanning, and they think that code's going to tell them the problem with their car. You have you've had some examples of this happening, so I'll let you describe what the risks are associated with that type of do-it-yourself repair.
Oh, absolutely. And in today's world, everybody thinks that if you pull a code, it's going to tell you exactly what the problem is. There's a lot of places that give those codes scans away for free, but that doesn't necessarily lead to the end result for a proper repair for your vehicle.
Well, and you can buy these scanners, so people think it's a computer. It must be telling me the truth. It knows what it's reading. And some of these codes are strictly for a technical, from a technical standpoint, just an approximate area of the car to begin your search on, but not a diagnostic tool.
Right, much like your doctor. If you got a sore elbow, you tell him you got a sore elbow. He's not going to look at your liver.
Well, and there's the truth of somebody maybe having heart problem, but their jaw is hurting.
Correct.
Right. So you're exactly right. There are things that are that can lead to other sensations.
Yeah, it only gives the technician an area to go look through, and there's a diagnostics process to eliminate and run special tests and procedures until we come up with a final conclusion of what it actually is that's wrong with the vehicle.
Well, give us some examples of some of those do-it-yourselfers that misdiagnose some of these problems by pulling codes.
They may go to the parts house that pulls the code for free, and then the parts house is in the business of selling parts. So they'll say, that which is most likely, it could be something like your oxygen sensor. They'll sell the customer an oxygen sensor, and oftentimes it's a substandard part for what the computer of the vehicle actually requires to do its job correctly.
Well, we had this conversation, and again, I think that parts is a whole nother segment, and we could spend hours on using inferior parts and what it looks like, but this is the perfect example of it. We were talking about that using a inferior oxygen sensor, everything else goes wrong after that. The computer can't read anything.
Well, in that specific instance, it can definitely mess with fuel economy, fuel trim, which in long-term results can cause other damage to other components in the vehicle as well.
Engine buildup on your plugs, internal. You can also have a car that just doesn't run right because the computer's now reading and trying to adjust for the emissions that are coming out of the tailpipe, and it's constantly adjusting based off of false information.
Well, and then the customer, they put a new part in the car. They think everything's going to be beautiful, and oftentimes it may not even be the issue that was at hand that caused the failure in the first place.
Well, and let's go a little bit deeper on this oxygen sensor for an example, because there can be somebody that's looking at a part that's $30 or $130, and they think, well, why if it's just a part, I can put it in there, and they're telling me it's an appropriate part. Well, they want to save the $100, but then it turns around and, like you said, it can cause other damages and other repairs, plus the re-diagnostic of you finding out what's wrong again.
Well, certainly, and it's a real tough thing as a service consultant to explain to a customer when they finally give up on it and bring it to our shop, when we diagnose it down to the faulty part that they just put in, that the computer rejected it. And it's a real tough talk about that with a customer. So we're here to educate the customers on that so that they hopefully will at least get some further diagnostics work done on it so that they can come up with an accurate conclusion of what's wrong with their car.
One of the other problems I think that we talked about in this whole category is the person that wants to fix it themselves that tries to self-diagnose using the internet, not even a code that could give you an approximate area to look at, but they go on the internet, I'm having this problem, and they try to start, I guess you called it shotgunning parts, or I call it part throwers, instead of flamethrowers. They're throwing parts at their car. Tell me some of the experiences you've had in your shop where you've seen that occur.
We get that quite a bit. Everybody's out to save $1, and certainly in our economy, it certainly makes sense to try to do it yourself. But remember that if you take your car to a qualified shop that has experienced technicians that have spent hours in training and lots of money in further education and the proper tools and the specialty equipment needed to do the jobs, you're probably going to get it done right and end up saving money in the long run.
And get it done right the first time. Well, and you say saving money. I mean, you've seen people throw parts at cars, and once they're in the car, some of these electronic components are non-returnable. Now they're still having to fix what was really wrong in the first place.
It could be as simple as a wire problem. We see a lot of that. Let's say it's a vacuum leak, and the computer, the only way it knows how to talk to you is an area that's got a problem. So it sets a check engine light for a very specific area, but it's never a part.
How many times do you see the do-it-yourselfers start to get into it and buy the part and then disassemble it and not be able to put it back together?
Countless times, Mitch, countless times. Now they've created a jigsaw puzzle for our technicians, because every technician has a method and procedure that they take things apart, the way they lay their parts out after they've come off the car, so that when they do their reassemblies, everything goes back the way it came off. If somebody else has got there before we have, it could be 3 times as expensive to put it back together from what the original repair would have cost them.
Well, and you just described it. I think that in order to save space, weight, all of these other factors, even maybe a body design, a manufacturer has to put things in, and if you don't put them in the proper order and depth into the compartment, the bolts and they don't line up, and you can't put them all back together. And you're going, why doesn't this fit? I took it out, and it's just off 1/4 of an inch, but the bolt won't go through it if it's off. But you had to put them back in the same order, and like you said, if you're not, you have a mess. And then the technician didn't lay it out himself, and has to try to figure out how it all came apart in the first place, because every car is specifically unique.
We get a car on the hook that comes in, and that guy hands us a box of parts and says, "Can you put it back together? And can you tell me how much it's going to cost?"
I have seen this so many times, and I'm not saying that do-it-yourself isn't a good way to save money, like you said, and I appreciate the integrity that goes behind your willingness to say that you understand why somebody would want to save $1. I think the recommendation here is, if it isn't something that you know like the back of your hand, that you shouldn't be playing with it.
Modern cars are way too technical for the average backyard mechanic or the guy that grew up turning wrenches with his dad type thing. Unless they've been to school for it, invested the time to further their education and buy the technical tools that go along with that, it can become a nightmare for those guys.
Well, and thank you for saying that, because this is one of the reasons why you are one of our featured top businesses in Northern Nevada, and why I can make a comment in the country. Recently, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, we've touched on it before, but I want to share about it again. Your organization, A Master Mechanic, was honored with being one of the 10 facilities in the entire United States. So I can say one of the top facilities in the country, because the Standard of the Industry Repair Guide organization, Mitchell Guide, it gave you new technologies to help them work out bugs in.
That's absolutely correct. And then when they finally got done with their beta testing, we have gone full. Mitchell has their new pro demand out for shops to purchase.
And I talked to Jeff Pheasant, one of the owner, and one of the things that he was shared with me about this invitation to do this is the reason that Mitchell came to you is you were using their system in the past all the way up to its capabilities, and then having technical emails and conversations back and forth with even their tech support, that you were pushing the envelope where other people had already stopped and given up and stopped and really hadn't found out that there were weaknesses in the system for them to even redesign and remodel the system. So when you talk about the technical abilities, I just want our community to know that this is the shop with the technical abilities and one of the top in the country. You have something that you wanted to share with our community to offer the person that wants to come in and maybe hasn't done a repair with you, or even if they have, or one of their friends may need a repair, that you have a special to offer them.
Well, certainly, Mitch. If we get here at the A Master Mechanic, anybody that comes in and mentions that they heard us on the show or through a friend of the show, I'll gladly extend a $25 discount off of the first hour of repair for whatever the repair may be.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that they can save money on. $25 off is a significant savings to give you the opportunity to come in and meet you the first time. So I'm hoping that that our community, the people that haven't found that a shop that has the abilities and tech and the quality that you do, that has had some past prior problematic problems with another company, would shift and give you an opportunity and use that $25 savings to come in and just meet you. Because I believe if they do, they'll understand the premise for our show. I believe that every single customer that we prevent from going to an inferior business that comes to yours, we have done our community a favor. And it's the whole reasons for our existence is to spare those consumers that aggravation. So I'm going to call on a community to take advantage of this. If you have anything, so let's talk about some of the things they can save $25 on.
Anything from any major engine repair, head gaskets, on down to something as simple as an oil leak repair. We do brakes, suspension, drivetrains. We do factory maintenance, scheduled services, fluid flushes, inspections, tune-ups. Yeah, the shop's very comprehensive. The one thing we don't do is tires, but we're working on that as well so that we can be a more comprehensive shop that does everything, a one-stop shop.
And you just added something very significant, is probably the most state-of-the-art alignment machine on the planet that you just recently installed. And that shop now is a complete room for it is now up and functional. So tell us a little bit about that Hunter machine.
Well, absolutely. It uses cameras and sensors. I can get alignment specs on a car, and the average of about I don't know. I see the guys do it. It takes maybe from the time they rack it till they pull it off, and I have the printout in my hand, maybe all of 5 minutes.
And, this is, I understand that it's capable of inflating all the tires to the proper exact specs for that vehicle. Before they begin the alignment, because that's where a lot of alignments fail, is if the tires are not all even and balanced, you start off with the wrong premise to even try to align a car.
Well, you're setting up the stance of the car and the footprint on the tire, and so that you get the best tire wear and the longevity factor for the tires. So certainly tire air pressure is first and foremost, and then you get into the specs and the geometry behind it.
Well, and so they can save $25 on that service as well if they're due for an alignment.
Absolutely.
And what other types of things can you take $25 off of? If somebody right now is sitting their cars in the garage and they've got a power window that doesn't work, it's probably you're going to be willing to.
Yeah, we do everything from like window motor regulators to door switches to light bulb repairs to everything. Not everything that I mentioned may end up being over $100, certainly.
Right. So basically,
on the cause.
Any repair that has at least 1 hour of labor, they're going to get $25 off the first hour of labor.
Correct.
For just about any repairer they could think of on their car. So
as long as they just mention they heard us here or through a friend that heard us on the air.
Speaking of that, how would they get a hold of you to take advantage of that?
A Master Mechanic can be found at 2255 Glendale Avenue, and I can be reached by phone at 775-358-6777, or you can send us an email at service@amastermechanic.com.
And you can find them also on our website, thecarbuyeradvisor.com, on our preferred businesses page. And you can hear all of their past interviews by clicking on their YouTube link. And please do that and share that with your friends that may not have heard the show today, because if we can do this as a community, if you start sharing this information, the show, the concept, the website, the businesses that we're endorsing, just try one of them. Just try A Master Mechanic. And if you do, you'll be supporting all the top businesses in our community, and together we can make a difference. Thank you so much for taking on the conversation about the do-it-yourselfer and giving them some things to be careful of if they're going to try it themselves.
Well, thanks for having us again, Mitch. I appreciate it.